Hi, this is Elly, and today we're talking about the Tilma of Guadalupe. I want to talk to you just briefly about this constellation map, and I also want to tell you that my new book is coming out, which will be available December 31st, 2022. It is the Mark of the Antichrist, which I found on the Tilma of Guadalupe. And I just want to bring to your attention, look, September 2020, Father Rodrigue said everything begins. I found 1903 to 2020 on the Tilma in 2017. And look, fall constellations. So September is a fall month. The Tilma of Guadalupe shows the same thing. 2020 in the fall begins everything. Everything that he says here is proved on the Tilma of Guadalupe through these Greek letters. He said September 2020 began everything, and there's the fall constellations, and there's 1903 to 2020. 2020 in the fall, and Father Rodrigue said the same thing, September of 2020 begins everything. I want to show you that fall constellations are on the Tilma, winter constellations are on the Tilma, spring constellations are on the Tilma, and summer constellations. I'm going to give you a brief overview. I'm not going to go through the years yet right now that I found on the Tilma, but in another video I will. But I want you to point out here that the fall constellations represent when everything begins, as Father Rodrigue and I are showing. The winter constellations represent Charioteer, which is Russia. We also have Gemini, Elly'S two sons. Remember the constellation of Gemini has the immortal and mortal twins? Well, we're talking about the two sons of Elly because today both the Republican and the Democrat parties are upholding sodomy and even the choice of abortion. We have here the 46th star, Joe Biden, representing the 46th president, and this is Our Lady of Guadalupe, the Lady of the Americas. Then we have the spring constellations. It represents the coming warning. We have the great, notice 2027 because I found that Iran is planning during Ramadan in February to start bringing out their 12th Imam. That's why the warning must come before 2027, because Iran is planning for bringing their 12th Imam, and Russia's going to help them. They are planning that year in 2027. February will have in 2027, they said we'll have the solar and the lunar eclipse, which will fulfill the prophecy of the 12th Imam. So the Great Bear, Iran is there, World War III. The famine is symbolized in Virgo for Mary, holding the wheat. Remember, Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world. And the crux of Australia, the constellation represents the warning. And then we have the summer constellations. Notice the amount of the difference in the years between 2027 and 2066. That's over 30 years difference. We have here in the summer constellations represent the coming of the three Islamic antichrists. We have Draco, the Lebanese false prophet, because remember in Thyatira, Jezebel is Lebanese. He represents the old Eve. We have the mark of F, which is seen on near the neck because people will be beheaded for their faith. The comet comes from the lion's tail. The lion represents the Lion of the tribe of Judah, Jesus, the one who came 2,000 years ago. We have Ophiuchus, who represents the 12th Imam, one of the three Antichrists. And we have the other Islamic Antichrist, Isa, Hydra, whose name will be Famat. And then after the reign of Antichrist comes, on the scales, Jupiter was found, the planet, and that represents the 3 days of darkness, because the planets are going to fall out of alignment. We also have Boots here. It's for farming. Boots is a constellation for the farmer, because there'll be no electricity, and you'll be at your refuges, and you'll be surviving off the land. And at the top of Our Lady's head is a crown for martyrdom, whether you're a dry martyr or a blood martyr. So I just want to give you an overview of all this, the three Antichrists, Draco, Ophiuchus, Hydra. We have the comet from the lion's tail. The lion represents Jesus, the Lord. A lion is also representative of Iran. Iran uses lions. And then we have the 3 days of darkness, which comes at the very end, and the planet Jupiter was over the scales. Now, the interesting, Jupiter is the one who's the vacuum cleaner of all the comets and asteroids for the Earth. But Jupiter appeared over the scales for the 3 days of darkness because the planets will fall out of alignment when that particular judgment occurs, at the very, very end. It's not going to happen in 2024. And I know Xavier talked about that. Well, he's wrong. And I know that John Henry Weston had him on his show and said, put big prophecy 2024. That's totally wrong, because a lot has to happen, as you can see, on the Tilma of Guadalupe. Nobody else has this information, only Our Lady of Guadalupe. So out of humility, I bring this information to you, to warn you that these times are upon us. I'm going to go into more detail about all these constellations in future videos. God bless.